Jim Schultz here for Calculated Risk, and don't forget, before we get started, the best way that you can help us is by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, or sharing this link with a friend. Any of those things really help us out a ton. Okay, so here's the scenario. You put on a short premium position, it's working out, things are going in your favor, and now you have to decide, should I ride this thing all the way to expiration, or should I close it early? I think a lot of traders kind of think, man, why would I mess with a good thing? Like, this is a good trade, it's a winning trade, let me leave this guy on all the way until the end. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why you should mess with a good thing, because at a certain point, if you keep holding those winners, you are quietly accepting more and more risk for less and less return. At a certain point, the math really stops working in your favor and it starts to work against you. And so there's a lot of ways to be successful in the market. That is absolutely true. But taking unnecessary risk for really meager returns, I don't think that that's one of them. So let's get into it. So let's begin with one of the most core axioms in all of finance. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. You could be talking about stock. You could be talking about options. You could be talking about futures. You could be talking about crypto. Shout out to all my crypto bros. This is going to be true no matter what asset class you might be talking about. It's risk and return, right? If you want more return, you have to be willing to take on more risk. And if you're comfortable with less return, more modest returns, then you can get away with less risk. So risk and return always follow each other. Well, with options, it's really no different. In fact, it is no different. It may look a little different, it may feel a little bit different because you're selling premium. It's like, all right, I'm selling this vertical spread, I'm selling this strangle. Like maybe with a vertical spread, I'm risking 3 to make 2. Maybe with a strangle, I'm not even sure what I'm risking because the risk is undefined. And so the risk-return relationship looks a lot more hidden. It looks a little bit more masked, but the same principles still apply when you think about it kind of writ large and you zoom out. It very much is a risk-return relationship, and we want to make sure that we understand how that relationship changes as the profits on a given position begin to materialize. Because here's what changes as the trade progresses. Again, it doesn't really matter if it's defined risk or undefined risk. We're going to talk about each of those individually here in a second. But if you have a trade on where you've sold premium and it's worked out and you've made some profits, $1, $10, $100, whatever it is, paradoxically, as you make more money on that trade, you actually have more risk in the position. And this is simply because, remember, you have a set amount of risk when you put the trade on, whether it's defined or undefined. You essentially have a cap on your risk when the position begins because you don't have any profits. But once you generate profits, once you begin accumulating some kind of gain on that position, that now gets tossed into the same bucket as the original profits, or the original losses, I should say, because that is now at risk too. So let's use some concrete examples, and let's start with defined risk. So let's say you have a vertical spread on, a very simple $3 wide vertical spread where you're risking $2 to make $1. Essentially, we are very comfortable doing this, risking more to make less, because this is indeed the price of admission when it comes to higher probability, when it comes to wanting pops greater than 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, what have you, risking 2 to make 1, risking $1.50 to make $1. These are very, very commonplace. Okay, so let's say some time has passed and the trade has worked. So it's a short put spread and the market went up, or it's a short call spread and the market went down. And now all of a sudden your spread that was marking at $1 on trade entry is now only worth, let's say, 40 cents. So you've pocketed a 60-cent profit on the trade. This is a great trade at this point. I think everyone will be very happy with this result on any vertical spread. Okay, great. But now, let's take a couple seconds and let's make sure we understand how the math has changed. When you put this trade on, you were risking $2 to make $1. It's now marking at 40 cents. So you're now risking the original $2, the original max loss on the trade, but you're also putting at risk the 60 cents that you've made in the trade up until this point. And so you're now essentially, if you stay in the trade, you're risking $2.60 to only make an additional 40 cents. That is not a great ratio in your favor anymore. Okay, so now let's take a look at an undefined risk strategy. Let's say that you sell a strangle for $3. Now, the risk is unknown, it's undefined by nature, but the same principles are going to apply here that would also apply to a defined risk strategy like a vertical spread, like an iron condor. The same general principles apply when it comes to the shifting and dynamic nature of that risk-return relationship. So the trade begins and I sell my Strangle for $3. That $3 is essentially my buffer against any adverse moves against me. Like that's what's going to be used to determine my break-even points. That's essentially the padding that I have around the edges that are my strike prices to help me kind of battle against any moves in the underlying stock to get away from me a little bit too far. Let's say some time goes by and the trade works. The stock just kind of sits around, the center, and it doesn't really challenge either one of my strikes. And let's say that my $3 premium that I had at entry is now only worth $1.40. So I've pocketed $1.60 on this trade. That is a really great trade. I mean, you've even eclipsed the 50% of max profit that we would typically go for when it comes to a strategy like a short Strangle. But again, think about the math. Think about the risk-return dynamics, right? You can only make another $1.40. That's your best case scenario. That is your best case outcome if the stock stays between the strikes and you take it all the way to expiration. You already have $1.60 in your back pocket. You are exposed to unlimited risk. You are exposed to a tweet that could come out of nowhere. You are exposed to a truth or mistruth or untruth that could come out of nowhere. You are exposed to so many things that could all of a sudden take that $1.60 and now it's gone. Poof, you don't have a profit anymore. Now you're back to break even. You're back to a scratch, or now all of a sudden you are at a loss on the position. So essentially, when you're at that point where you've already made that $1.60, you are now fighting the same battle with the same risk parameters that you had at trade entry, but now the profits that you've earned are also at risk. And I just want to highlight and make sure that everybody understands that that is not a great trade for you anymore. Like that is just not a favorable risk-return relationship for you anymore at this time. Okay, so let's take these principles and let's apply them to the whole portfolio. Let's zoom out a little bit. So if we think about a portfolio, you've got positions on, you've got 5, 10, 20, whatever it might be. Some are working, some are not. So the positions that are working are great. The positions that are not working are not so great. But when it comes to the management, when it comes to the thinking about the risk-return potential or the risk-return realization of a given position, if you carry things too close to expiration, when they've already kind of achieved the lion's share of the profit potential that you set out for that position, then they're still exposed to the same tail risk, to the same adverse event, the same outlier risk that you were exposed to at the very beginning. But now it's different because you've already gotten what you've come for. You already have the winner that you wanted. And so that's why you need to be really careful when you find yourself in a situation where it's like, if I just go for a little bit more, maybe I can squeeze a little bit more juice out of that orange if I just hold it for another hour, another day, another week, what have you. Generally speaking, that's just not a great trade. And I get it, man. Like, I understand. The overconfidence kicks in. The Midas touch feeling kicks in a little bit. And you kind of feel like, man, I can just go a little bit further to ring the register for just a little bit more. Well, this is why the systematic rules apply and exist inside the Tasty ecosystem, like managing at 50% of max profit. Because at a certain point, the risk-return trade-off is just not favorable for you. In fact, it even slips into a very unfavorable situation when you get beyond 50% of max profit. Now, all of a sudden, you're risking more than even half of the potential profits on the position. That's why we typically shut it down at 50% of max profit as a maximum. So the main takeaway is this. As premium sellers, like, we're okay risking more to make less. Again, that is the price of admission for high probability. That's okay. But when you have a trade on and it's working, defined risk, undefined risk, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. There comes a point where it just doesn't make sense to keep that trade on. It makes a lot more sense to close that winner, redeploy that capital, let the probabilities play out for you, and lean into the math. Give the math a chance to work. When you go for more on a given profit, you're kind of working against the math and you're fighting against its natural current, and I don't want that to be you. So we'll see you guys next time.